Committee from Vusimuzi Correctional Facility since before midday today, delivering explosive claims that place former Police Minister Bheki Cele at the center of alleged cash payments. He says he paid Cele R500,000 essentially in two-part cash payments of 300,000 rands and 200,000 rands respectively. Now, the last payment was made as recent as this year in 2025 in March, he said. He says the payments were made at different locations, including at Matlala's apartment in Pretoria. It comes after he had first met with the former Police Minister Bheki Cele in December 2024 at the Beverly Hills Hotel to ask him to intervene over what he called police harassment following those several raids by police at his home and his office. Of course, Bheki Cele also testified to having met him at that hotel in Durban in December. Now, Matlala says he believed that Cele could stop the police actions against him. He says Cele helped him after he agreed to withdraw the legal action that he took against the officers who had raided his office and home. He's described how after meeting Cele in Durban, he was able to get his firearms back from police following the raids. He's also testified that, Cele lied under oath when he said it was Matlala who told him that Cele wanted to be president. Matlala told the committee that Mkhotsi never said the money is for funding Police Minister Senzo Mchunu campaign. It was Cele who told him that Mchunu wanted to be president. Cele previously, as you will recall, told Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee, also probing allegations of corruption in the criminal justice system, that he met Matlala in December at that hotel where he was introduced to him by Bongani Mabonga Mpungose, the son of the taxi industry figure. Now, Matlala says he stopped contact with Bheki Cele because he could not stop asking him for money. He says he was shortly arrested after having cut that relationship with the former police minister. Let's now bring in Advocate Paul Hoffman to weigh in on this particular matter. Advocate, thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. So I want to start perhaps with just some of the reservations that Matlala had at the beginning of the proceedings, saying that he did not want to speak around the 360 million rands contract with the SAPS. He did not want to incriminate himself. Just speak to us about, those reservations, the legalities there, and following, of course, his consultation with his legal team.
Yes, thank you, Anati, and good afternoon to your viewers as well. What an explosive day of testimony. It really is quite remarkable how much has been held back by the canny evidence leaders and leaving us all to guess what's coming next. What I think we need to understand from those reservations that Matlala expressed early this morning when he started getting quizzed around matters concerning his contract, his 360 million rand contract in the medical field for the police. I don't know what's happened to the police's medical aid schemes, but we leave that aside for the moment. The law is quite simple. If you are giving evidence in an ad hoc committee or indeed in any committee of Parliament, then the provisions of the legislation that deal with the powers, privileges and immunities of Parliament apply. And among those immunities is an immunity in respect of any evidence you give that may incriminate you. So that evidence out of his mouth that may be of an incriminating nature is not admissible in any other proceedings, cannot be introduced into a criminal trial or even civil proceedings arising out of the information. So if Bheki Cele wants to sue him for defamation, for claiming that Bheki Cele paid R500,000 rands, was paid R500,000 rands in bribes by Matlala, then he will not be able to rely on what was said by Matlala.
Advocate
And
Hoffman,
the other way around.
let's then continue our conversation with Advocate Hoffman. Advocate, of course, just having listened to that summary by Bulelani, what do you make of, Matlala's testimony about the former police minister, Bheki Cele? He's also testified that Cele lied under oath. I mean, when he said it was Matlala who told him that Cele wanted to be president, and of course, also delivering that explosive claim that placed the former minister at the center of these alleged cash payments, one 300,000 and another 200,000 rand.
Yes, I'm afraid we have to go all the way back if you're going to ask me to make an assessment of the credibility of Bheki Cele. We have to go all the way back to those famous leases that were contracted for police headquarters at a time when he was the National Commissioner of Police for the World Cup Soccer in 2010. That led to a complaint to the public protector. It led to 2 reports by the public protector who said, there's smoke, there must be a fire here. And it led to the appointment of the Malloy Board of Inquiry into the 2 leases that were negotiated by Cele at 3 times the going rate. That board was not given powers to subpoena, but it did get enough information out during its hearings to come to the conclusion that Bheki Cele is both dishonest and incompetent. And I'm afraid he hasn't changed his spots since then, because he is now once again in the crosshairs in relation to corrupt dealings, which if what Kat Matlala is saying in the ad hoc committee is really a case of extorting money from a contractor who is trying desperately to get his contract to deliver some work on the 360 million rand figure, which one doesn't know how they ever arrived at that, until one hears the evidence that this is an opportunity for those involved on the police side to make a little bit of pin money for themselves by setting up, what was it, a bed and breakfast in Pretoria somewhere. That sort of exploitation of the tender system is well known in South Africa, and it seems that it has found its way into the police line of command very effectively and very unfortunately, because this is all money that should be spent on improving the lot of South Africans in general, rather than feathering the nests of the generals.
And just staying on the legal front, I mean, just talk to us, Advocate, about just the process that will be taken here, where you have 2 witnesses who are contradicting, sworn testimony at the ad hoc committee. What is the process that then determines, who may be charged with perjury or even misleading Parliament? Or what are we likely to see?
Yes, if they do it properly, all of them will be charged with perjury. And the courts can decide whether anybody is telling the truth or whether the truth is anything other than the commission of corrupt activities, extortion, fraud. In fact, the list is endless. And the credibility of both Cele and Matlala is questionable. Matlala seems to be quite prepared to pay money in order to advance his career as a tenderpreneur. And that is why he is in the unfortunate situation in which he finds himself. The politicians, I'm afraid, do not come out of it. The politicians involved on the ground, not the ones in the ad hoc committee. I think some of the members of the ad hoc committee are having a field day exploring the depth of depravity that is in evidence in this matter. Sorting out who's telling the truth is going to be very difficult, and I don't envy the prosecutors who are asked to work out who to charge and who to use as state witnesses. That's going to be a very tricky process. But it certainly does indicate that the South African Police Service is in deep, deep trouble with a lot of corruption in all the wrong places at the highest level, and that a big cleanup is required, serious reform of the capacity of the criminal justice administration to deal with corruption effectively and efficiently, which is what the Constitution requires. And in 2011, the Constitutional Court ruled that a body outside the control of the executive is what is needed. Now, when you look at who caused all the trouble here, we have Mchunu presumably punting his presidential ambitions, or certainly doing very strange things in relation to the future of the political killings task team. And we have Chelly coming in as a fixer to assist a dodgy businessman with his dodgy dealings. So what does that tell you about the quality of the executive branch of government since both Chelly and latterly Mchunu are former ministers of police? I think Mchunu is technically still the minister of police, even though he's currently on gardening leave and seems unlikely to ever return from his gardening leave.
All right, special leave.
Serious reform is necessary, and that involves creating a body outside the control of the executive to deal with corruption, which you can easily do in South Africa because we already have several Chapter 9 institutions that are there to ensure the integrity and accountability of governance in South Africa.
And I think you've answered the question that I was going to pose in as far as, political influence, particularly when you look at security structures. But thank you so much for your time, Advocate Hoffman. And of course, that was Director of Accountability Now, Advocate Paul Hoffman, just weighing in on some of the testimony that we heard earlier on from Kat Matlala. Of course, the Ad Hoc Committee returns tomorrow at 10 a.m.